One private request may have just exposed the biggest power struggle inside the royal family. According to reports now circulating around royal circles, Queen Camilla wanted one thing from Prince William: a guaranteed seat at the table as preparations quietly begin for his future reign. William's answer: no. But what happened next is where this story takes a dramatic turn. This reportedly wasn't just a rejection. William is said to have put a safeguard in place designed to make the decision almost impossible to challenge. No second appeal, no private pressure from the family, and no behind-the-scenes request powerful enough to reopen the door. And the royal figure believed to be standing firmly behind that decision: Princess Anne. If these reports are accurate, this is no longer simply about Camilla being excluded from a few private meetings. It raises a much bigger question. Has William already started drawing the line between King Charles's court and the monarchy he intends to build himself? Because when access begins to disappear, influence usually follows. And what reportedly happened behind closed doors may reveal exactly where Camilla stands when William eventually takes the throne. Subscribe to the Royal Echo, because this royal power struggle may be far from over. The conflict reportedly began during a private transition meeting. Nothing dramatic was expected. The discussion was meant to focus on practical matters: security, staff, communication lines, responsibilities, and how the monarchy would operate when William eventually became king. William arrived expecting routine planning and wanted firm rules. Camilla entered believing she would remain part of the conversation, as she had been during Charles's reign. Then she raised one question: would her right to be consulted continue after William took control? At first, the request sounded harmless, but inside the palace the meaning was much larger. Camilla was not simply asking to receive updates. She was asking for a protected place in the structure of William's future reign. That would mean influence created before his reign began. William did not agree. He reportedly acknowledged Camilla's years beside Charles and the difficult public role she had carried, but he was unwilling to promise permanent access to a system he had not yet fully created, and was even firmer. Instead of treating the request as an emotional family matter, she reportedly argued that the rules should be settled immediately. Future access, in her view, should depend on constitutional duty and active responsibility, not marriage, personal history, or closeness to the current sovereign. William did not object. That silence mattered. It gave him room to shape a rule that would later become central to the dispute. From that moment, the idea was simple. People would belong inside William's future planning circle because of the role they held, not because of the relationship they had with Charles. Camilla apparently did not realize how important that moment was. The boundary that would later keep her outside had already begun taking shape. Months passed before she learned how the rule had developed. When she finally discovered Anne's role, Camilla reportedly avoided secretaries and formal palace channels. She went directly to the Princess Royal. The meeting was private. Camilla wanted to know why something deeply personal had been turned into a permanent rule, and rejected that description. To her, it was not punishment. It was structure. Camilla pushed back. What did that structure say about her place in the family? After decades beside Charles, was she now being told that her experience would simply stop mattering the moment the crown moved to William? That was when the deeper fear reportedly surfaced. Camilla admitted that she was not trying to control William's reign. Her real fear was isolation. For years, she had worked to survive criticism, gain acceptance, and build a role inside the royal household. Once authority moved away from Charles, she feared those doors would close in a single moment. She would still be visible, still be royal, but no longer connected to the decisions shaping the future. That fear made the dispute feel less like a fight for power and more like a fear of disappearing. And listened. Then came the answer Camilla may have least wanted to hear, and reportedly said she had understood that fear from the beginning. And that was exactly why a firm boundary was needed. William, she believed, had to begin his reign free from obligations created by sympathy, habit, or loyalties inherited from his father's court. But Camilla soon learned something even harder, and had proposed the principle. William had strengthened it. According to the account, William privately reviewed the recommendation and added a protection of his own. Once access was removed under the new structure, it could not be restored simply through a personal appeal, and had drawn the line. William had locked it. That changed everything. Camilla could no longer believe and alone was responsible. The future king had personally accepted the rule and made sure it would survive pressure later. William understood the weight of that choice. As heir, he would eventually control the private structure around his own reign, and could advise him, but she could not impose the final arrangement herself. William approved it, and he knew who would be affected. Charles reportedly faced that reality in private. He read the briefing while William sat across from him. For several moments the king said nothing. He understood immediately how Camilla would see it. Not as a technical change, as rejection. Charles asked whether William was certain. William's answer was calm. He would not have approved the change if he had doubts. The reason for the stronger restriction reportedly came from an internal review. Discussions belonging to Charles's current household had begun overlapping with planning meant specifically for William's future team. Names, appointments, communication plans, and responsibilities were moving between two separate circles of authority. That created a serious problem. Charles was still king. William was preparing to become one. If the two systems became too mixed, the monarchy could face confusion at the exact moment a change of reign demanded clarity. So William made the boundary difficult to reverse. From then on, the issue was no longer Anne's position. It was William's decision. And Camilla began feeling the consequences almost immediately. Palace decisions are often most painful after the meeting ends. The next morning still looks normal. Staff arrive. Cars move through the gates. Folders are delivered. Schedules are updated. But one name can vanish from a list. One chair can disappear from a room. One call can simply stop coming. Camilla reportedly noticed the change while looking through a revised schedule. A planning meeting that would once have appeared among her expected briefings was gone. The new rules were now active. Her role beside Charles remained untouched. She was still queen. She still had duties. She still stood beside the king. But William's future structure had started moving without her. An aide waited to see whether she would protest. Camilla did not. She quietly told the aide to leave the schedule as it was. The words were simple, but they carried surrender. Later, Charles found her and sensed immediately that something had changed. Camilla told him she could accept losing influence more easily than she could accept the feeling that years of loyalty had suddenly become irrelevant. Charles listened. He knew her position in his reign was secure. But this was no longer only about position. It was about belonging. William later heard through a senior palace briefing that Camilla had not asked Charles to intervene again. She had not demanded another meeting. She had not tried to use another family member to reopen the issue. William had expected anger. Instead, he heard silence. For the first time, the cost of his decision stopped feeling theoretical. It had a face. And noticed the danger too. Although she still supported the restriction, she reportedly warned William that firmness and cruelty were not the same thing. If schedules, lists, and official notices were allowed to deliver the final message, a necessary boundary could begin to feel like humiliation. That warning mattered because it came from Anne, the strongest defender of the rule. If she believed the silence had gone too far, William had to listen. So he finally agreed to meet Camilla directly. No Charles. No Anne. No officials. No appeal papers. Just William and Camilla. For the first time since the dispute began, the issue was no longer being handled through policy. Camilla did not ask him to change the decision. Instead, she asked one question. Did the rejection mean he no longer trusted her? That question changed the tone of the meeting. William reportedly paused before answering. He explained that the decision was not about personal trust. It was about the point where one reign had to end so another could begin on its own terms. Then he admitted something important. He had handled the aftermath too coldly. William said he had feared that any warmth might be mistaken for uncertainty. He wanted the family to understand that the decision was final. But in protecting the rule, he had allowed Camilla to experience an institutional boundary as a personal rejection. He told her that he respected what she had endured beside Charles. He did not question her loyalty to the king. But his future reign could not begin with permanent influence guaranteed by relationships formed under the previous one. Camilla listened. Then she made a decision of her own. She would not appeal again. That did not mean the pain had disappeared. It meant she finally understood what William believed he was protecting. Nothing in the rule changed, but something in the relationship did. The argument inside the family began to soften. Outside the palace, however, the story was only beginning. By the next morning, what had started as a private dispute had become a public debate about the future of the monarchy. Some people saw William's refusal as ruthless. Others saw it as proof that the next reign would be built on his terms. Camilla became both a person and a symbol. Anne's role made the story even more explosive because the Princess Royal reportedly confirmed that the boundary was not temporary. It was meant to last. Palace communications tried to calm the reaction by drawing one clear distinction. Camilla had not been removed from Charles's reign. Her current duties remained. What had changed was her guaranteed access to William's future one. To Camilla's supporters, that distinction sounded cold. They argued that she had spent years beside Charles under intense public pressure, faced hostility, rebuilt her image, and continued working through criticism. To them, shutting her out of future planning looked like a severe reward for loyalty. William's defenders saw the situation differently. They argued that a future king who refused to set boundaries simply to avoid family discomfort would begin his reign already weakened. William had not taken away Camilla's current position. He had protected his future authority. Outside Buckingham Palace, the argument quickly became impossible to miss. Television crews gathered. Headlines spread. Commentators debated whether this was a family rupture or the first visible sign of a new royal order. One reaction captured the mood perfectly. It felt as if William's reign had begun before the crown had actually changed hands. That was the real tension. Charles was still sovereign. Camilla was still queen. Yet William's future court was already separating itself from the world built around them. Behind the headlines, the four people at the center of the story had reached a quieter understanding. William had explained himself. Camilla had withdrawn her challenge and still defended the rule, but also pushed for compassion. Charles had begun accepting that his son needed independence. The public wanted winners and losers. Inside the palace there were none. There was only a boundary, and everyone had to live with it. William did not reverse the decision. Camilla did not regain the access she wanted. But the ending was not the explosion many expected. Instead, each person accepted a different cost. William accepted that authority sometimes means hurting people you still respect. Camilla accepted that years of service do not guarantee permanent influence, and accepted that strong institutions still require human care. Charles accepted that the future monarchy could not be built around the emotional needs of the present one. Camilla later told Charles that she would not ask him to step in again. The king understood what that meant. The appeal was over. Her place in future succession planning meetings would not be restored. Those meetings were not ceremonial gatherings. They involved private preparation for duties, security, household structure, authority, and the practical transfer of responsibility when a new reign begins. Camilla would remain beside Charles, but William's future planning circle would continue without her. She reportedly told Charles that forcing him to choose between his wife and his heir would cause more damage than accepting the decision. Charles did not argue. William, meanwhile, carried the discomfort into another private conversation with Anne. He reportedly admitted that rejecting Camilla's request had taught him something about power. Authority was easier to discuss in theory than to use against someone inside your own family, and reminded him that the irreversible clause had never been designed to punish Camilla. Its purpose was to stop the next reign from being renegotiated every time a painful family boundary created pressure. Charles eventually completed the circle. In a private exchange with William, he acknowledged his son's right to organize his future household independently. That acceptance removed the last realistic path for another challenge. Charles did not pretend the decision was painless, but he understood the alternative. William could not prepare to become king, while still needing approval from the current reign to define the next one, and later treated the matter as formally closed. The file was put away. No new appeal followed. The rule remained. Yet the emotional consequences did not disappear. In the weeks that followed, Camilla continued appearing beside Charles at official events. She maintained her duties, supported her patronages, and gave no public sign of a feud. But inside the household, small changes reportedly became noticeable. She no longer expected certain papers to arrive. She stopped asking about meetings that once might have included her. No announcement explained the change. It simply became normal. And perhaps that was the hardest part. The boundary was no longer being debated. It was being lived. That quiet adjustment also changed the atmosphere around Charles. He was still the king, still the center of the present court, but he could now see that some decisions were already moving beyond his reach. For a monarch, that is an uncomfortable reality. Succession is planned while the current sovereign is still working, which means the future slowly begins to exist beside the present. Charles reportedly avoided turning the issue into a confrontation with William. Doing so might have protected Camilla emotionally, but it would also have created the exact problem William was trying to prevent: the current king influencing the structure of the next reign through personal pressure. So Charles chose restraint. That did not make the situation easier at home. He understood Camilla's disappointment because he had watched her spend years trying to earn stability inside an institution that had once treated her presence as deeply controversial. Now, just when her place beside him appeared secure, she was being reminded that royal security can have limits. For Camilla, the message was difficult but clear. Her position came from the reign she was living in now. It did not automatically travel into the next one. And for William, every quiet consequence reinforced the same lesson. A constitutional boundary may look simple on paper, but inside a family it can feel like a personal wound. That is why the dispute became such an important test. William was not only deciding who would attend meetings. He was learning whether he could hold a line after seeing the emotional cost of it. He did. But after speaking directly with Camilla, he also seemed to understand that strength did not require distance. The decision could remain final without turning the relationship into permanent hostility. The rules stayed unchanged, but the way they carried it forward became quieter, more careful and human. William did not celebrate the outcome. He did not publicly attack Camilla or allow the dispute to become an excuse for open briefing against her. Behind closed doors, the episode reportedly weighed heavily on him. He understood that saying no to someone who had stood beside his father for decades was not a clean victory. It was a burden. Still, he did not regret the central decision. William believed the monarchy needed clarity more than comfort, and he appeared willing to accept the personal consequences of that belief, even when those consequences followed him into family rooms, and also refused to reopen the matter. From her point of view, the monarchy had survived a difficult test because the boundary held after it was set. Warmth mattered. Consistency mattered more. In the weeks after the dispute, she reportedly treated Camilla with the same formal respect as before. No public hostility. No extra closeness. Just discipline. That, in many ways, was exactly what Anne had argued for from the beginning. Eventually, public attention moved to other royal stories. But the rule created in those private meetings did not vanish. It remained inside the machinery of the monarchy, waiting for the day when Charles's reign ends and William's begins. Camilla will still have a place in the history of Charles's monarchy. She will still have carried duties, faced public pressure, and stood beside the king. But according to this account, she will not have a guaranteed place inside the room where William's reign is planned. That door once seemed open. Now it is closed. And the most important part is not that Anne helped design the boundary. It is that William chose to keep it. He accepted the rule, strengthened it, and made it difficult to challenge later. That is why this story matters. It is not simply about Camilla losing access. It is about William learning what future kingship demands before he ever wears the crown. For years, succession has often been discussed as ceremony. A crown, a balcony, a new title, a national moment. But behind those images is something colder and more complicated. A new reign also means separation. Old habits end. Old networks change. People who once had influence may no longer have it. And someone has to decide where the line is drawn. In this case, that responsibility reportedly fell to William earlier than anyone expected. Camilla's appeal forced him to choose between keeping the peace today and protecting independence tomorrow. He chose the future and helped make that choice permanent. Charles eventually accepted it. Camilla stopped fighting it. But no one walked away untouched. For Camilla, the lesson was painful. Being central to one reign does not guarantee a role in the next. For Charles, it was a reminder that even a king cannot fully control what follows him. And it proved that boundaries only matter if they survive emotional pressure. And for William, it was perhaps the clearest preview yet of the job waiting for him. A future king cannot please everyone. Sometimes he must close a door knowing exactly who is standing on the other side. The palace may have moved on. The family may have found a way to live with the decision. But the precedent remains. When the crown eventually passes, William will not inherit only a throne. He will inherit a structure he has already begun shaping. And Camilla's failed appeal may one day be remembered as one of the first moments when that future became visible. Not through a speech, not through a ceremony, but through a quiet refusal inside a closed room. A refusal that began as a family request and ended as a statement about power. The appeal failed. The boundary survived. And long before William becomes king, one message has already been made clear. His reign will begin on his terms,